Hi Mel, thanks for joining me today.
That's okay. Nice to catch up with you.
Yeah, I thought it would be really good just to go over items that we had in the budget and what details we'd found out since, because there was an awful lot of information that wasn't broadcast straight away, wasn't there?
Oh yeah. You get the headlines, but you don't actually get the detail and what it actually means.
Yeah. So I hope you don't mind. I noted down a couple areas that I thought would be good to touch on this morning. So yeah, we'll just run with it and see where we get to, really, if that's okay.
That sounds good.
Perfect. So yeah, one of the biggest areas that they touched on was the change in taxation of the companies.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
I wondered, could you tell me a bit more about it?
Yeah. Well, currently the corporation tax rate is 19%, and that will remain in place until the 1st of April 2023. Once we get to the 1st of April 2023, they're then going to bring in marginal rate relief again, which basically was enforced probably about 10 years ago. What they're going to do is any profits for companies up to £50,000 will remain at the 19%, but any profits of companies over the £250,000 will be at the 25%. But anywhere in between will have the marginal rate relief applicable to it.
That brings back nightmares from years ago.
I know. I didn't enjoy that part.
No. So have the revenue said how it's going to work, or is it how it was before?
No, not as yet. I have had a look into it, but I can't see any definite answers yet as to what the actual fraction formula will be. So they've actually said they're going to update their government calculator in due course.
Right, okay. So that might not be until the 1st of April 2023 then?
Probably not, no.
So for our clients, what does it really mean? If you've got businesses that are around that 50,000 mark, is it worth setting up extra companies so that you can split those profits around?
Not really, because the actual thresholds are split between the number of groups involved, number of companies involved. So I can't see it be any advantage as such.
Right. And what about if they move their year end? So maybe if they're getting close to the 50,000, and their year end is past the 1st of April, is it worth shortening their year end?
Yeah, definitely. You could look at shortening it to the 31st of March. Say if, like you say, they had year end at the end of April or beyond. Obviously, you've got to only have the 12-month period. But if you already had the 31st of March as your year end and you thought about shortening it, then that wouldn't work because they'd only pro rata the period.
Oh, I see. So if I'm a March year end and I move it back to December, they would shrink the 50,000 limit down to like the 9 months then, is that right?
Yeah.
So we can't even get around it that way.
No.
Right. And you mentioned like lots of, if we have lots of companies that won't work. Why is that? Why won't that work?
Because basically any company that is controlled by the same person or group of persons, or there's a company controlled by one other company, then the thresholds, like they say, the 50,000 or the 250, it's all adjusted, apportioned for the number of companies involved, the associated. Yeah.
So really, that's going to be a watch this space one, and we can update as we find out more information. Then, really.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, still quite early days at the moment.
Yeah. So then, one of the big headliners that the revenue used was this tax super deduction, and it wasn't. They just threw it out there that you get 130% relief, and that was it, and that's how they broadcasted it. So, can you tell me a bit more about it? What have we found out since?
Yeah, well, like you say, it's 130% allowance, but what they didn't say is that it had to be for new or unused plant and machinery. So any second-hand or used plant and machinery that's bought, it won't be eligible for this.
Oh,
super
that's not very
deduction.
helpful, is it? Because
No.
there's a lot of people that don't buy new equipment.
Yeah, they'll still be eligible to claim the annual investment allowance up until December this year, but they won't be eligible for the super deduction.
Because the super deduction, that's not like an allowance in that way, is it? It's a first year allowance.
First year allowance, yeah.
Yeah, so they're just like technically different, aren't they?
Yes, they are, yeah.
Can I get it on a partnership or a sole trade then?
No, it's all only relevant to companies.
Oh, I see. So is it to kind of take the brunt off the tax rise that we were just talking about?
I think so, yeah.
Are there any restrictions on it?
If you entered into a contract before the 3rd of March 2021, before they made this announcement, then you wouldn't be eligible for claiming the super deduction because you'd already committed before that date. Right. But if you entered into a contract after that date, you would be.
Oh, right, I see. And what if I get 130% allowance, say on a piece of machinery, what about when I sell that then in a few years' time?
Yeah, there'll be some clawback on that, like with any asset that you sell, but they will claw that back because it will go into an asset class of its own, so it won't go into the general pool.
Oh, I see. And I suppose when I come to sell it, because it will be when the tax has been risen, hopefully I'd have profits of over 50,000, that actually I could end up paying more tax than the tax relief I got.
Yeah, I think timing is going to be like a crucial part in this. Yeah.
So having planning conversations beforehand and the strategic plans for the business is going to be really important.
Definitely, yeah.
Yeah. So then, another one that they kind of just threw out there, didn't they? They didn't give us much detail about it, but they mentioned about losses and what we would be able to do with those because of the effects of COVID. Could you fill us in a little bit more on those?
Yeah, usually you could carry back losses to the previous 12 months, but what they've actually introduced is a temporary loss relief. So you can go back up to 3 years. So what they want you to do is basically you relieve this loss against the later years rather than the early years. So you go backwards year on year.
Oh, I see. So I can relieve it against last year's before I can relieve it against like 2 years before.
Yes. Yeah.
I see.
Yeah. Yeah. So you can't pick and choose which year you want to relieve it against. It's got to be in a numerical order.
And is this something again that's only for companies?
Yes, it's open to companies as well as the sole traders and partnerships.
Right, okay, so at least everybody can benefit from this. Does it include every business?
Sorry, say that again?
Does it include every business?
Not property businesses, no, because those losses are always ring-fenced against that property.
Right.
Or type of, and that includes the furnished holiday lets as well, which is going to be a real pain.
Yeah, that's a bit of a knock for them, isn't it? Because especially down in our area, they've been affected quite dramatically.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, but there's no losses that can be relieved in that way. They've got to follow the rules.
So it would just take longer for them to get their relief, really, if we have to use it against future profits. They will still get a relief, but obviously they won't benefit from this temporary inflation.
No.
So there's an awful lot there, isn't there, to take in, and changes that are
there's a lot to consider. It's not like when you get the headlines you think, oh wow, it's brilliant, but actually when you get down to the detail, there's a lot that you need to consider, a lot of planning involved, but really the decision making. Yeah,
so I would have said the most important thing would be to include us in those plans. And
exactly, you need to be talking to us, especially before you go committing to any plant of machinery. Talk to us before we do that. Make sure we can get the best option for you anyway, tax relief.
Definitely. Well, thanks ever so much for the quick catch up. That's
okay.
Really
nice catch up.
Yeah, lovely. And no doubt I'll catch up with you again soon.
Will do. Thank you.
Thank you, Mel.
Bye.